So you're famous-ish. Right. Hi, it's Emily from Bite Size Vegan, and welcome to another Vegan Nugget. Myq Kaplan, spelled like that because he's special, is a 2010 Last Comic Standing finalist and has appeared on The Tonight Show, The Late Show with David Letterman, Comedy Central Presents, Conan, and many other places that you might not care about. You can listen to Myq's podcast, Hang Out With Me, on the Keith and the Girl Network. His debut CD, Vegan Mind Meld, was one of iTunes' top 10 best-selling comedy albums in 2010, followed by Meat Robot in 2013, and the upcoming Small, Dork, and Handsome in 2014. And he needs to update his website bio. It's 2015. Anyways, the most important aspect of Myq for our purposes is that he's vegan, which defines him over everything else he may identify himself by and outshines any other accomplishment he's ever made.
When you're vegan, people think you're weak, because look, but I will... That's mean. That laughter's mean. I will fight anybody in here in, 40 years when I'm still alive and you're not, probably, because... I read a statistic that said vegetarians live an average of 7 years longer than non-vegetarians. Vegans live up to 15 years longer because we're not invited anywhere fun or dangerous. So we sit at home crying and drinking, careful not to cry into the drink because tears are a product of animal suffering. We're not allowed.
Well, recently, Myq was traveling across the country, moving his girlfriend Casey and simultaneously doing a tour, and I was fortunate enough to snag a bit of their time. As a note, my dog Ubi was out on the porch with us, so you will hear distracting noises and possibly see the top of her head from time to time. Alright, so I'm here with Myq Kaplan and his girlfriend Casey, who are moving her across the country progressively and doing a show at each stop?
Yep, pretty much.
Okay, and this is the final...
Yeah, tonight's the final night of the tour.
Awesome. Alright, so... I guess just for people who might not, know you or know your story, can you kind of talk a little bit about how and when you became vegan and maybe about how you got into comedy?
Sure. I was, I think, like many people, I grew up sort of eating meat because that was normal, the thing, like your parents did it. And in high school, I remember thinking, maybe it'd be good to not kill animals. And then, but I was like, but burgers, so I just kept eating. But then when I got to college, there was a vegetarian station in the dining hall, and there was a lot of different foods, and so I was like, maybe I'll give it a shot. And so I was like, I'll try being vegetarian, and if I fail, then I'll stop. And it worked, and so I did that for a while, and that sort of became my new normal, dietary wise. And some people are like, well, isn't it limiting, to have less food? But I was like, I'd never had Indian food or Cambodian food or tons of different kinds of Asian food, or there was all this stuff that I wasn't, I just grew up eating pizza pretty much, and burgers and hot dogs, and so I was like, oh, there's so much more food. Did you guys know? Maybe everybody already knew, but I don't feel like most people who are making that assessment are necessarily all the most adventurous. They're all the foodies. But then a few years after college, probably when I was around 24, I had, I'd sort of read some Peter Singer stuff about, animal rights, animal liberation, and, learned about factory farming and all the, I'm glad now that I think here's the reason to become vegan, so you don't have to watch any more of the horrendous movies and be like, I get it. Everything is, animals are being treated horribly, and so I just felt like to align fully my philosophy with my actions. I was like, the meat industry and the dairy industry are inextricably linked. So if you're like, I don't like how the meat farmers are treating their animals, then the dairy farmers, they're the same. It's the same animals, the same treatment. So that's when I became vegan, and that's also right around when I started doing comedy. I think unrelatedly, I started doing comedy. I was a musician, sort of aspiring. I was starting my vegetarian and music career at the same time, and then shifted to vegan and comedy, also parallel paths, but unrelated.
So you've been on, on television in a number of respects with Comedy Central and with Letterman and whatnot. What, just being in the public eye as a vegan, what has been kind of the general response that you've gotten?
I mean, the response that I like the most is like sometimes I don't talk about being vegan all the time. Like I think every album that I put out has like some jokes about it, but it's not like extensively, exclusively all that I talk about, because it's not all that I am or think about, or the way, like, life. Obviously, you eat food every day, but there's hopefully you're doing other things too. So the response that I like, the couple of responses that I like the most are like, oh, I didn't even know you were vegan, or you don't seem like a vegan, or that vegan. Like a joke that I wrote, I think that I don't think it's recorded. I should do it. It was like when I switched from being vegetarian to vegan, one of my like worries or concerns was just like, will I be able to do it? Like, it's going to be more work. Like, I'm going to have to read things and ask questions and be annoying. And I'm like, well, I love doing all those things. So I legitimately, ultimately now it's just sort of like it is easy enough, but I don't, I come at it, I guess, to answer your question, the way that I come at it is I know that most people aren't vegan, most people aren't vegetarian, and that there are, sort of stereotypes and connotations, and I think misconceptions, like the classic, like, there's a fun dog here. The classic sort of, joke about the vegan is, how do you know someone's a vegan? They'll tell you. But, which is, I understand, it's a good joke, whoever came up with it. But there are so many people, of course the ones that tell you they're vegan are, but there's so many people, there's stealth vegans out there, there's people just living their life, not making a big deal about it, but of course you wouldn't know because they're not making a big deal about it. Yeah. It's like you don't have to be, an activist, like picketing in order to change your diet to be like, either more environmental, healthier in some ways, or better to animals in a lot of ways. You can do whatever degree of whatever you want, and so for me, like, I'm not necessarily coming at it as to be an activist. I'm just like, this is the thing that seems reasonable to me, and I think that is the thing that a lot of people do respond to, which is like, oh yeah, like, because the things that you're saying make sense. Like, I think like most people, like I was in high school, were like, oh yeah, probably, most people who aren't sociopaths are like, yes, if I could have the same life that I have now, but also fewer beings experience unnecessary suffering, yeah, I'm on board with that. And that's the place that I'm coming from, when I talk about it, in comedy or otherwise. So I think that like, I'm not trying to shame people. I'm not trying to, or if I do, it's like jokingly, it's sort of both ways. I understand how vegans are perceived. Like one of the first jokes I wrote was like, I'm a vegetarian. Are there any other douchebags here? And then I'll say like, I'm not here to like push my views on you. Like, you can go on like living incorrectly all you want, like just understanding, like, I mean, that's sort of where, like, Louis C.K. had a great joke once about, I think it was something like, I know that killing animals is wrong. I just don't care that it's wrong. I think that encapsulates, like, where most people are with respect to that issue and most issues that are, say, questionably, like, sort of the gray areas of the ethics between what we want to do and what we do.
What has it been like when you kind of started to get more recognition and have be on television and such? Like, has that kind of changed you in any way, do you think?
I mean, the same way that every year you have a birthday and then somebody's like, do you feel older? And you're like, no, because it's just a day older than yesterday, which was a day older. You're yourself. You see yourself in the mirror every day, if you look in the mirror every day, and then 6 months go by and you see a friend you haven't seen in 6 months, and they're like, oh, your hair's a lot longer, or you've lost weight, or whatever it is that, oh, I didn't notice at all. Like, there was a period of time in my life where I got into really exercising a lot and eating super healthy, and I like lost more weight than I need have. And people were like, when I got back to school after the summer, people were like, hey, you look real thin. And then like I saw a picture of myself and I'm like, oh, I do. Like, I didn't notice it happening. And so similarly with, gaining experience in the comedy world, like, whether you're getting on TV more, like it used to be probably like in the 80s, you'd get on Carson and then millions and millions of people would see, like, the whole country would be watching, and then your career would be like legitimately, objectively different the next day. They'd be like, well, now you're working all the time. Whereas now, there is no sort of like kingmaker. or queen maker, or, we don't need royalty. There is no, magic bullet. I don't like violence. There is no, potion. But all the late night shows that I've gotten to do, maybe every one of them, some people see me, and like I remember, somebody, sees every once in a while somebody would see me on the street, like while I was doing Last Comic Standing, and like, hey, I just saw you on that thing. Like that was probably the one where the most people were watching, like week after week, millions of people, and so I'd say every week, like a couple people would recognize me. Like, and it's never gotten to the point where I'm like, oh God, please leave me alone. It was always like a nice thing to be recognized, but to the point where, here's the thing, like, the worst, this is a dumb worst thing, like a very champagne problem. I was in Toronto a couple months ago, and I went to this vegan restaurant, and I think I get recognized more in like vegan restaurants and comic book stores than like anywhere else. Maybe because there's like a higher concentration of people who would be more likely to have seen or enjoyed my comedy there. But a guy who was like working at the restaurant was like, Myq Kaplan. And I was like, oh, hey, thank you. And he's like, we worked at a summer camp together. I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Good to see you. That's like my friend Henry Phillips is a super funny comedian who has a joke about being in like, I don't even know if it's a joke. It's just a real thing that happened to him. He was in like the Montreal airport, I think. This always happens in Canada, I guess. He was in the airport and somebody comes running up to him and they're like, Henry Phillips, are you Henry Phillips? And he's like, yeah. He's like, you left your credit card at the bar. And that's like all of Henry. He's so great. So I definitely, when you ask like, has doing what I've done or accomplished what I've accomplished changed me, like every moment changes me. Those landmarks, getting to do Letterman for the first time, getting to do The Tonight Show, getting to do like a Comedy Central half hour, having a special, like all those things now are just things that I'm glad. The thing that I'm most glad for is that it gets my comedy out there for people who would enjoy it, to find it, so that now they can come to live shows, they can buy new CDs, they can just listen to my podcast, they can take in more of what I'm putting out, that just enable me to keep my comedy machine flowing. One specific thing that came out of like doing comedy and like gaining a higher profile, amongst people who watch comedy and listen to comedy is I do a lot of podcasts. I have a podcast. Casey met me or found out about me because of that. Like she listened to the podcast Keith and the Girl that I was on that I'm a frequent guest on, and my podcast is on their network. So she found my podcast through that, and we met because she wrote me an email that said she listened and enjoyed like what I said and who I was and what I did, and then when she was living in California and I was living in New York, so when I was in I would go there sometimes, and she came to some shows and we met, and that's why we know each other. So that is, I'd say right now, the biggest way in which doing comedy has changed my life in a specific way, for the best.
Well, I mean, I feel like you've sat here the whole time. Is there anything you want to bust out or add?
Casey, when didn't you become a comedian?
My whole life. I will say that my own vegan choices were really inspired by hearing Myq talk about them. So I think it's good for, public people to keep expressing their opinions, because it really does create change, and I am one of those people.
Casey is the change that I see in the world.
Oh. Gandhi relationship happening. That's awesome.
Yeah, Gandhi was, while he was on his hunger strike, was totally vegan.
Yeah, this is very true. Well, I just want to thank you so much for your time, both of you, for taking the time out of your tour to come by.
Thank you.
And for everything that you do.
Thank you for you doing everything.
Awesome. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Myq and Casey at the tail end. Sorry about that. Stay tuned to the channel for part 2 with them, where we discuss how to mix humor with something so often serious as veganism, and how Myq manages to be an optimistic vegan, which is a bit like a minotaur riding a unicorn into Narnia. And also, you can find all of the links to connect with Myq in the video description below. Now, I'd love to hear what you thought about what Myq had to say in the comments below. If you enjoyed hearing from a vegan in the public eye who's actually vegan, give the video a big thumbs up and share it around. If you're new here, do hit that big red subscribe button down there for more awesome vegan content every Monday, Wednesday, and some Fridays, and not to miss out on part 2 with Myq. If you want to help support Bite Size Vegan, check out either the support links in the video description below, or click the Nugget Army icon there, or the link in the sidebar. Now go live vegan, remember to laugh, and I'll see you soon. We're talking about, good, why do you keep trying? You haven't gotten any smaller.
Go the other way.
I know, every once in a while she remembers and does it.
Most people are people that come to comedy shows. Every once in a while I do like a, vegetarian food festival or like an animal rights event. I think the stereotype that, vegans or vegetarians don't have a good sense of humor, comes from,